Welcome, everyone. I am going to talk about the modern trolley problem. It's going to be a mix of philosophy, responsible AI, a little bit of tech in there, some IoT on the edge, and perhaps an appearance by a Shih Tzu that was targeted unfairly by custom vision. If this is not what you are here for, now is the time to run, but otherwise I hope you're going to enjoy yourselves. This is me. I would love it if you would all connect to me on LinkedIn if you are not. You can find a lot of the code that I play with in my GitHub, so it's like you want to take a picture of that slide, you can go ahead. I do have a resources slide at the end with loads of links to the stuff that I'm talking about, and also loads of links to the stuff that I didn't have time to talk about. I think I probably could have done this as a workshop with double the amount of time, but we will try and get through it. So, I'm going to try and go through all of these things. What's the trolley problem? A little bit about autonomous vehicles or driver assistance cars. Our responsibility to build responsibly. Object recognition and what we do with it. And I'm going to train and deploy the model. I've recorded that demo, so there should be no demo fails. And some things to think on. So, who knows what the trolley problem is? That's cool. Also interesting that a lot of you came to see it without knowing what it is. So the trolley problem is a philosophy problem. Philosophy was my undergraduate degree many years ago. It's a thought experiment in ethics. So it's a fictional scenario that says, if an onlooker has a choice to save 5 people who are in danger of being hit by a trolley, by which I mean like a tram or a train, rather than this kind of trolley, by diverting it to the other line, or if they do nothing, it will go ahead and hit those 5, then what should they do? And it's often seen as a trade-off between doing what is good and what is right, and what sacrifices are acceptable, if at all. So, as I said, we don't mean that kind of trolley, we mean this kind of trolley. That's better, huh? Pitting the idea of responsibility against the measurement of good by an end result. So, obviously, 5 people dying would be worse than 1, right? Is anyone of the other school of thought? It depends, is the correct answer, indeed. So what we've got is we have those 5 people that are strapped to the track by a kidnapper or something. And that's the main track. The other track is closed for maintenance, and the guy on the other track is working there with his work order in hand. So he expects that line to be not in use, and he expects his life to not be at risk. And so if I, the fat controller, were to pull the lever and shift the train to the other track, he would be killed, and it would be by my action that he is killed. If I do nothing, then the 5 will be killed. But I didn't do anything. I could have just looked away. I could have been having a hot chocolate, you know. So this is the kind of the scenario that you are thinking of. The one where we are saving 5 people by our action of pulling the lever is referred to as utilitarianism, the greatest happiness of the greatest number. And the other school of thought is called deontological ethics, which is any action is in and of itself good or evil. So if I pull that lever, I am actively committing murder. Whereas if I don't pull the lever, 5 people are dying, but nothing to do with me, you know? It's really inappropriate of me to laugh when I'm talking about people dying. I'm very aware of the fact this is being recorded. It's probably not going to go well for me. I have changed some of the titles in the slides because, yeah, me under some of those headings looked really bad. Anyway, so Philippa Foot was the English philosopher first credited with introducing this version of the trolley problem way back in 1967. And then Judith Thomson from MIT was credited with coining the term the trolley problem. Now, she also came up with an alternative scenario which makes it even more interesting. Let's say I'm standing on a bridge overlooking the railway, and the train's coming down, and I can see the 5 people tied to the line. There's no track to switch them, and I don't have that control, but I do see a really big fat man in front of me on the bridge. If I push him over the bridge, he will probably stop the train in time. And so it's even more of an active action than me pulling a lever. I am actively committing murder in order to save the 5 people. What do we do there? How many people would push the man? One brave man, one brave utilitarian at the back. So 5 people are all dying because you're all just willing to look the other way. Oh.
Is the one guy the president? Who knows?
Oh, that's very interesting, yes. Does the president have more value? So if that one guy, if that one big fat man is Elon Musk, should we value him more highly than a homeless man? Okay, the second richest man in the world, then, shall we say, is, yes, are we ranking them on monetary worth? Are we ranking them on what they give to the world? I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Okay, here's a predator drone. Actually, it is probably not a predator drone, in that if I had an actual picture of a predator drone, I would not be before you now. This is probably one of the ones that Lars Klint uses to keep people off his property. But yeah, the predator drone in the 1990s changed the way that the US fights wars, for the better and for worse, in that it keeps US troops out of harm's way, but it also removes them from in-the-moment decisions of war. So predator strikes can be incredibly precise, but they have also killed hundreds of civilians. And when I say hundreds, I might mean thousands, I might mean tens of thousands, I might mean hundreds of thousands, because there is not reliable data on the number of civilians taken out by US military drones. So yes, that is kind of bringing our trolley problem into a modern context. But today I'm going to talk about it in the context of autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars. So the things that people are most concerned about when they think about autonomous vehicles, in an unavoidable crash situation, where does the programming tell the car to go? Do we brake and swerve into pedestrians, into a wall, off a bridge? Do we ask the algorithm to calculate the path of least damage? Do we tell the algorithm to preserve the people inside the car at the cost of all others? I initially had who do I kill up there, but then I changed it to who do I save so I didn't look quite the monster. Yeah, as we were just discussing, is the value of one person worth more than another? Now, I saw that in a film. I'm not sure if it was Black Mirror or something else, but there was an episode where someone was murdering people, and then they were putting an envelope of money on the dead body afterwards, and the amount of money in the envelope was calculated using the algorithms that a life insurance company would use for those people to say this is what that person is worth. The interesting thing is culturally, country by country, there are different laws and there are different morals and ethics regarding who is worth more. Is the richest man in the world worth more? Is an older person worth more? In many cultures, they are very revered, and in others, well, maybe in the same ones, a young person might not have any value at all until they're 12 years of age. But in others, it might be that young people are the future, they're our hope, so we would value those above the old people. How are we ranking those things, and are we telling that to the car? Are we coding that into their algorithm? Are we getting it to swerve away from one and into the other because one is worth more than the other? This might be easier and more familiar. I think in a lot of countries, the individual comes first. Everyone would think me first, save me, above all others. I am not prepared to jump off the bridge into the path of the passing train to save those 5 others. I do not want the car that I am in to swerve to avoid hitting that old lady if it might mean that we smash into a wall and I get hurt. Even if it's quite a small risk that I might get hurt and there's a definite risk they're going to get more seriously hurt, unless we're in one of those countries where people sue each other a lot, and then it's kind of a cost-benefits analysis based around who's got the most money, I think. Okay. So here's the scenario in a much more modern context where we are actually looking at a trolley, but what we have here is indeed the train driver would be acting legitimately, and all of these people are just trying to get a good TikTok or a good Instagram pic. Would we sacrifice our own life when other people are behaving recklessly and putting themselves in danger, or should we just mow them all down? Okay, so essentially we're asking, can an autonomous car be programmed to judge people's intentions? And should it? Should it be adjusted in line with ethics and morality? Should it be adjusted with the laws of the country? Because as I say, country by country, who has more value is different. And so therefore, if you are making all your cars in a factory in China, after they are shipped out to the country where they are going to be in use, should the final programming be done there? Should the final programming be done by the driver, asking them, what would you do in this scenario? This is all philosophy so far. We're going to get to technology in a little bit. So what is a self-driving car? It is a wonder of modern AI technology. It's capable of detecting its surroundings and functioning without any human intervention. It should be able to go to a preset location without human intervention on roads that have not been adapted for its usage. It needs to know the route, understand its environment, follow traffic regulations, and make accurate decisions while interacting with other cars and people on the road in order to arrive at its destination. And the question is generally, when can we take the drive out of the car? Because people want to just be sitting in there watching their movies. They don't want to have the work and the effort on anyone. And for that to happen, we need to come to a point where technology has advanced to a degree of safety and security that it can be relied on. And also, more importantly, I think that humans must have confidence that in the case of an accident, a human driver could not have done it better. So there are autonomous vehicles out there right now. Mostly they are not on public roads. However, in Perth, we have them on public roads. We have a bunch of vehicles owned, I think, by RAC and the City of Perth, and they do a set route, but they are on public roads and they are autonomous. So the technology is there. It's the other part that is the problem. Now, there has been big news about responsible AI announced this week from Microsoft, which was awesome for me, doing a presentation and realizing that there's a whole new bunch of content to incorporate. So what I have done is I will mention the bits that impact the self-driving car, and I've put links to the new stuff at the end so that you can look it up. So, where I was talking about the tech must advance to the point where it can do all of the things that we need it to do. In fact, AI reached human parity in all of these cognitive services many years ago. All of that magic is there, and it works really, really well. It's not really the technology that's the problem, it's the people. And, well, I'll go into more detail about how people, humans, are creating problems with the wonderful, magical technology that we have at our fingertips. It is mostly because we're lazy. And in fact, you will see it even when we go to my demos, because, yeah, I'll go into that when I go through the demo. But I was looking at a lot of the findings around driver assistance cars to see who was at fault. That's what everyone looks at, first of all, right? When they see there was an accident involving a driver assistance car, they always look for who was at fault. And I guess us as people in tech, we're looking for it to say the tech wasn't at fault. And generally it does. Generally, it says that the driver was watching a movie. They didn't have their hands on the wheel. They were accelerating at the time, stuff like that. Because they don't tend to class vehicles as autonomous vehicles when they're on public roads, even if they have the technology to be autonomous vehicles. They class them as driver assist cars, and they say, you must have your hands on the wheel, you must be paying attention, you must be looking, you must be watching. And if you aren't, then that's your fault, even if the car couldn't do it better, and it obviously didn't do it better, but I don't think the human, like in many cases, the human might not do it better either. So I'll show you what I mean by that. But I will skip to very quickly one of the things that was kind of news. If you see this, it says on June 11th, 2020, Microsoft announced it would not sell facial recognition technology to police departments in the United States until stronger regulation grounded in human rights had been enacted. Now, since 2020, that notice has been on all of our docs surrounding facial recognition stuff. Reason being, well, yes, in some cases, people use AI for evil, not for good. But I would say in a lot of cases, it's laziness. They did not train the model sufficiently. They did not take the time to make sure that it could tell the difference between different people of color. That they didn't check out alibis when facial recognition software said that guy did it. Stuff like that. It's laziness more than intentional badness. But even so, we are very lazy. As human beings, we are very lazy. And then the news this week, we have limited access to parts of our facial recognition technology, removing certain capabilities that detect controversial features such as a person's age, gender, and emotional states. Because, well, yes, people were using it for evil. And it's real sad because, in fact, there was great good that could be done with that technology. There were some wonderful stories of children, autistic children, who were lost when they were very young in big crowds. And several years later, they were identified in orphanages by facial recognition technology that aged them to the right age and, put them back with their parents. Without using this technology, that might never happen. But all of these things are being removed because people are not using AI responsibly, and it's a real shame. So anyway, I'm not going to talk about that much. There is a link at the end so you can go to the information, but it is pretty interesting. So here are the 6 responsible AI principles that Microsoft asked people to adhere to, and they're pretty cool. There are examples of what they mean by each of those things, and I'm going to show you some. So, fairness is the first one. And this is the one that most people want to be sure of. They want to be sure that AI systems treat everyone fairly and avoid affecting similarly situated groups of people in different ways. So if you're providing guidance on medical treatment, loan applications, or employment, they should make the same recommendations to everyone with similar symptoms, financial circumstances, or professional qualifications. They shouldn't be offering different advice because of your colour, your age, your gender, your, I don't know, anything. So inherited biases is the thing that we're thinking about when we're talking about fairness. Those biases affect our decisions and actions, and they are recorded in the data which we use to train AI systems. So this is where I'm talking about laziness as well, because in fact you can get the AI to train itself. You can give it all the data. So you could say, here's all the bank loans that we have approved and denied in the past 20 years. Take all of that data, learn from it, and then you approve or deny the loans in future. And the problem here is that if those loans in the past were based around biased, discriminatory reasons, then it will continue like that in the future. And so it's entirely possible to take that data set and then do other things with it. You can then feature tuning. You can then tell it that it should not be tuning on these things that it thinks that you decided on in the past, but you should instead be deciding on, do you have a history of good credit? Are you constantly repaying? Do you have enough money to manage this loan? That kind of stuff. So you can tell it what the features are it should decide on, rather than the ones that were in the data you've already given it. If you take a little bit of time, and if you take a little bit of effort in order to make sure that training is good. So that's that. And for the car, this is what we're saying, I guess. We want to be sure that if the car hits someone, if it is in an unavoidable situation, that it didn't choose one over the other because it valued the richer person or the younger person or the whiter person. Reliability and safety for cars. This is the most obvious thing. It's been a big issue for technology since the first days of the automobile. The creation of the car led to the development of a number of standards that helped improve safety of drivers and society more broadly. So as long as we incorporate these principles into how we move forward with AI, and we keep that continuous iteration, continuous improvement front of mind, then we can keep ahead of it, I guess. Does anyone recognize these three algorithms? Asimov's law of robotics, indeed. And generally, they, of course, apply to robotics. They apply to self-driving cars. And in fact, they should apply to every interaction that we as rational human beings have in our everyday life. We should all be not seeking to injure a human being or allow other human beings to come to harm, protect our own existence, all of that kind of stuff. The problem with applying laws to rational human beings is, of course, that human beings are not rational. So, does the AI see better than the human? So when we're talking about reliability and safety, is it better that the decisions are in the hands of the car or in my hands? As I was driving to the airport at 4:30 in the morning on Monday, it was raining just like this. It was dark. I had not had any good coffee yet, and I had forgotten to put my glasses on. Also, as I drove along the freeway, there were roadworks, so they had those big bright lights above the freeway that shine directly down at you, and when it's raining, it's really blinding. And so I was so scared because I could hardly see anything, and I'm driving along trying to get to the airport. I didn't really have the option of pulling over and stopping because I needed to get on the plane. I would have very gladly given over my control and my life to this autonomous car in that scenario. The reason being because I think the car does not get tired. The car does not need coffee. The car has more sensors around its exterior than I have in my exterior. And also, yeah, it's not really shaking like I was. So its actuators are very good as well. This is its little pixel grid. It sees things pixel by pixel. And it's a lot more detailed than me. So yeah, I think that the hardware that the car has is much better than the hardware I have in my body. And the software is probably better in that scenario as well. Let's break it down to what kinds of applications we might use. So this is real fun because all of these applications of computer vision you actually find in the Microsoft AI Fundamentals learning path. So it's not even complex technology that we are using here. It's stuff that you can learn about at the fundamentals level and play with. And I'll show you in the demo what I'm playing with there. The difference I want to point out is I have, in my demo, used the object detection. And in real life, for an autonomous vehicle, you'd want to be using semantic segmentation. You can see what it's done now in semantic segmentation is it's colored every pixel of the vehicles and the cyclists. Whereas in object detection, it just puts a generic box around the item that it's identifying. And then it picks that up. The face detection one is the one that we have, most of our announcements about. Okay, so this is what we are doing with the autonomous vehicle. And again, you can see here, this is object detection, so it's not really super precise. But I've put a semantic segmentation one further down, so you see it absolutely can be. So you'd want the better technology, you'd want the better, more precise stuff, but in order to get that and to use that, that requires more work, more training. And that's, not just the laziness of humans, but also cost. If you are just wanting to play with something yourself and you don't have very much time, you can stand up some object detection and object recognition stuff in less than 15 minutes and play with that, and it's not going to cost you anything at all. If you want to do semantic segmentation, it's going to take you a lot more time and a lot more effort and more money because you're doing more training, a lot more training. But you'll see why that's important when I play one of the videos in a bit. Okay, so here's the little car, as it would be. This, and of course you can see they could have a lot more sensors on than I have. I have got these little sensors in my head and this computer up here, and these are my actuators. But on the self-driving car, they can have a lot more than I've put on there. But that's kind of the basic scenario. This is what I built to play with. And it's a ultimate robot, which I got half price because it's a few years old. So the firmware was a little bit out of date and all the instructions were in Chinese. And so the reliability and safety of my demo vehicle is not what you would want in a production car. Also, the shape of this vehicle is not as it was on the box. So when I first got the box, I had a work experience student come in and build it for me as on the box, and it looked amazing. However, what I have in the middle there is a Azure Percept device. And we put it first in a Lego car. One of the MVPs had built a self-driving device using an Azure Percept in a Lego car. And I had it like that, first of all, but every time it hit something, all the Lego flew apart. So, yeah, definitely we needed a stronger vehicle. So we took apart the robot and we rebuilt it to try and make a nice cage for the Percept to go in the middle. The Azure Percept would like me to point out to you that it has brains enough to run this whole operation, but it's letting that Raspberry Pi and Super Pi on top do the grunt work for it because it likes to delegate that boring grunt work. And, you know, they came with it in the box, so. But this is what we see when we look through the Azure Percept device at the objects I was training. So I trained it initially just on Lego cones to recognize Lego cones and avoid Lego cones. I did start adding Lego men, but I have not put anything in the code about Lego men. So it only knows what to do when it sees a cone. When it sees a cone, it should turn away from the cone. Okay, so here is the demo. What we're doing here is going into Azure Custom Vision. You can go to that from its own web page, from the Azure portal, from the Azure Percept device, any of those things. Those are a few projects I already have trained, but I'm just going to show you how you would set up an object detection one. It's real quick. It's quicker in this demo because I actually cut out the part where it was training. But yeah, I picked object detection and I picked general domains. Now they say for an IoT edge device, you should pick a compact domain. However, when I did that with my Percept, it didn't recognize it at all. So I've gone for general and that works good. What that does, the general domain, is it will pick up all the other stuff in the room. What I'm doing here, though, is I'm giving it a selection of 15 cones. 15 is the minimum number of cones of pictures you can use to train your first model. Ideally, you should have single cones on plain backgrounds and just be showing it from different angles. What happened here is, although I had 15 pictures of single cones on pretty much plain backgrounds, it failed to recognize them all. It said that some of them were too big or not real pictures, which is a problem because it then meant that either I had to take 2 more pictures of cones, which was so much effort, or I could just take one of the pictures that had 2 cones in it and use that instead. So you see already my human laziness is interrupting my ability to create a good demo and a good model. And I'm only talking about 15 here. Now, you're wondering whether 15 images is going to be enough to train a model for a self-driving car. No. No, you would not really trust that, and you will see why. However, 15 is the minimum that you need, and after you have 15, you can ask the tool to do some of the work for you. So what I'm doing here is, if you click on it, it will identify kind of what the rough area that you're doing. I typed in cone as the tag, and I'm just confirming that each time. Now you see how sometimes the box wasn't covering the full cone area. If that was a person and I had left my feet out, that would probably be a problem, right? But once again, my laziness in training this model has come to the fore, and those cones are somewhat at risk as a result. Then I thought I'll put some Lego men in there as well, and once again, 15 Lego people and it doesn't recognize 4 of them. So once again, I'm going to have to try and add some more pictures in, and I don't have any singular ones, and so I'm going there and adding some multiple ones, which is not as good. Or can I take my test picture and use that instead? Lazy Michelle. So there we go. So it is going to, so then I'm going to just tag those same way. I just put in a new tag for Lego person. When you see the other video where I show how it looks, it says Lego men as the tag, not Lego person. But I realized that, in fact, I should recognize that there is more than one gender available to the Lego people. I also have some Lego people of color there, but the color is green. There's a lot of white women with blonde hair. They've all got the same style. I hear they have the biggest Lego store in this hemisphere, in this town. So, you know, obviously I might need to shop there for more varieties of Lego people. Anyway, so I go through and label those up or tag those up, and then I can use those for the training. Yeah, the purer the training, the more that you have in there, the more variety, the different angles, the better it is going to run, and you will see why it is a problem if you have not trained your model well afterwards. Now here this would take, I don't know, could be 10 minutes, could be 20 minutes, definitely less than an hour, but I cut the demo so you don't have to wait for that entire bit. And then we get to this, and it tells you how precise it is. This is, I mean, not good enough to go to production, but it's, but it's not, I mean, it's not terrible. So we are going to then give it some more images, which they should be single images again, and I don't have any more, so I'm just going to give it a bunch of stuff that isn't as pure as it should be. But I'm going to let it label it, have a go at labeling it itself. So this is how you can see you could save a lot of time by using the automations that are available within the tool. Oh, I'm trying to test it here, and it's brought the people up as sideways, and then it doesn't recognize them at all. So you can see that that's not good enough for real life. But once again, my laziness is coming up. So I just try again with another one. And it does pick up this. However, it thinks, if you see at the bottom there, it thinks that she's a cone. It's 58.5% sure that she's a cone. So that's not very good, apart from the fact that I have trained the model to avoid the cones. So she would be safe and the other guy would not be. So let's put all of these in and ask it to train itself or to tag itself on those. For even a test model, for even a demo, you should be using 100 images minimum, which you see I am not even close to here. For production, we should be talking thousands, hundreds of thousands maybe, and video as well as images. But this will be good enough for my Azure Percept obstacle avoidance vehicle. There was a lot of team meetings and things that I took pictures of there. Some of them were, yeah, a bit drunk, having a fight in the after party. There we go. So So it has identified them, and I just have to confirm whether that's true or not. On this one, I confirmed it, and you see I missed the person of colour lying on the floor there, which is, you know, once again, typical of what happens in the real world. We are too lazy and we go through too quick to do stuff properly. But I pick out the white woman, so that's very bad. But you see it's pretty easy to add in those ones that it has missed, and if you're not lazy and if you do your job properly, then you can improve your model and get it running in a really good way with a lot less effort than it would have been in the olden days where you had to do everything manually. But here it's identified this girl with brown hair as a cone, so you can untag her as cone and tag her as Lego person, and then you can add in all the extra people there. And you can see how like different lights and different angles make it more difficult for it to pick up straight away, but it's not entirely bad that it's finding that difficult, because as you saw, I haven't given it that many images in order to do that from. So there we go, I'm going to train that again. So it's now on its second iteration, second level of training, and it should be a little bit better. So that's okay. Oh, and I'm going to test it there, just to check whether It's good. And it's 63.2% certain that that's a Lego person. So that's good. It didn't say Kane. It's not like a high percentage. If you were going to go to production, 63% would not be enough. But it's good enough for our demo. So I can publish that model right now. Although actually I don't need to publish it for what I'm doing with it, but you could publish it and then access that through an endpoint. Okie dokie. I have included in the instructions more instructions on how you can do this and how you can build that and how you can. So if you did happen to win that Percept device they were giving away outside, then you would have more instructions than this. Let's leap back to our responsible AI principles. So privacy and security, this is a big one, and this is, of course, one of the reasons that we have made our announcements this week. Privacy and security, super important in everything, in enterprise and governments and in life. It's getting more and more critical and more complex. In order to make accurate and informed predictions and decisions about people, you need more and more data. But in order to get access to their data, people want to be sure that you can be trusted with that data, that you're not going to abuse it, that you're not going to use it badly. The one kind of government that has done something good that people can follow is European Union, who introduced the GDPR. In Microsoft, we enforce that as our strictest one, even though it's an American corporation, because it's easiest to go with what is the strictest policy at the time. So yeah, they tell us not to keep any data. Don't keep any data. If there's no reason to keep it, don't keep it. Don't ask for it. Don't ask no questions. Gather no data. Do nothing. But there is a tension between the need for more personal data and to make them more secure and to protect people's privacy. And there's a huge uptick in security incidents related to AI. And of course, AI itself is being used to protect that data more and more. So the bots are attacking and the bots are protecting at the same time, and there's just like all these bot wars going on. And we need to ensure that our data science processes harmoniously blend the latest privacy and security practices. So in this country, we have a lot of magic police cars, and those magic police cars, they have continuous scanning, they have continuous recording, they have continuous tracking, they're doing license plate recognition. The information from those license plates is continuously being beamed to those cars, and the recorded data is going back to the stations, and all that recorded data is kept. When you're driving along the road a little bit too fast and you see a speed camera ahead or you see a police car ahead, who slows down? We are already too late. They are tracking us from 1 kilometer away. We cannot even see them, and they are already tracking us. They can track to your individual car swerving in and out of traffic on a busy freeway. It is absolutely incredible what they can do with those magic cars. And I don't mind that when they're protecting me. They're protecting me and keeping me safe from the criminals. But what if it's me they're investigating? I mind that. So, yeah, it's an interesting, where is the line, I guess. This is the one thing I don't need to be so worried about, Alison. In that AI is definitely a great enabler of inclusiveness and for people with disabilities. There are 1 billion people with disabilities around the world, and AI technologies can be a game changer. It can improve access to education, government services, employment, information, and a wide range of other opportunities. And inclusive design practices can help system developers understand and address political barriers in a product environment that could unintentionally exclude people. So by addressing these barriers, we create opportunities to innovate and design better experiences that benefit everyone. And I feel it because I am not. I would not consider myself a person with a disability, but you are all a blur to me right now, even in the front row. And I am aware that this will become worse and worse with time. The other thing I'm aware of is a few years ago, I could go in to do a 10K race without any training at all. And now I can't even contemplate going for a run around the neighborhood without thinking I'm too old for this. So all of the technology and all of the AI that will assist me in my daily life and make it easier for me to go about and do things with the least effort and the least intervention possible is bliss for me, but it is an essential thing for many of the people with wider disabilities who, are not as lazy as me. They just simply don't have any choices. And so it's build responsibly, build with all of those people and your older self in mind. You make the world better, not just for them, but for yourself and for your children when you build better products with accessibility and inclusion front of mind. Cool, and I have included a link about AI for accessibility in the resources at the end as well. For the self-driving cars, I think that this is a huge plus, because there are a lot of people that cannot drive a car, and they can. If the car is an autonomous vehicle, they would be able to drive the cars. They would be able to get somewhere. They would be able to do things that most of us take for granted. And so this is the one that I feel like is really obviously the most important thing that we could be doing all day. You want to be fair and you want to be safe. They're all important, but this is good. Okay. Transparency is what underlines the other principles, though. So people want to understand why. Why did the car swerve left instead of right? Why did it not stop in time? Why was there an accident? They want to understand what was the behaviour behind the actions of the car. Was it encoded in the algorithms? Was it something that the driver did? Was it a failure in the hardware or software? Was it the training? So it's not really that they want to see the code. They're not standing there saying, show me the code, but they are saying, explain it to me. Explain to me in easy, understandable terms why the car made those decisions or why those things happened. And despite how complex and how exciting AI is, we should be able to do that. As I mentioned earlier, feature tuning is where you can take specific things and say, judge on these features, as opposed to these other things that you might have thought were the reasons for declining or approving a loan previously. Black boxes are something that people often get worried about and say, well, we can't explain it because it's a black box model. That's not strictly true. You can run explainer models over black boxes, and it will go through and it will be able to tell you what algorithms were used, what models were used in order to come to the decisions that it did do. Now, when I say it will be able to tell you, it will give you percentages on that. It will say it was like 99% this, 68% that kind of thing. So yes, not it's a fact, but close enough, you'll be able to judge, and then you would be able to change it if that model was wrong. If it had learnt on historic data with no tuning, you would be able to say this is no good. We can't run with this in production because it is not making wise decisions, fair decisions. Okay. Here is a little demo of what it looks like. Now, with general domain, it identified those books and some other stuff just from the general domain. I'm just going to deploy the model here. And so you see it's just easy, just like you push the button and then you go back to the thing and it changes from books to identifying the canes and the Lego men. This on the other side is what the robot device is reading of the telemetry there. So it's the same thing that you see there, it's reading there. And I told it essentially to move forward, and if you see a cone, turn away from the cone. So you see it's turned away from the cone. It is mowing down the Lego men, and you see how it has identified Leo the lion as a Lego man, which is concerning to him as it is now coming directly for him, and he is worried that he is being Terminator targeted. So that was one of the questions he asked me afterwards. Why did the car come at me? And he held me accountable, because one of the things that we say is that in AI systems, a human is responsible. So even though that car was clearly on a rampage and it was not following any programming that I gave it when it went for Leo, I am responsible for that car. I programmed it, I owned it, I sent it after him, and I was watching it as it went for him. So the need for accountability is particularly crucial with sensitive use technologies like facial recognition. And it's perhaps the most important of all the principles that we have. So it's ultimately one of the biggest questions for our generation, as the first generation that is bringing AI to society. How is it that we ensure that computers remain accountable to people? And how do we ensure that the people that design computers remain accountable to everyone else? So I guess, yes, you can look to the announcements that came out this week, and I have a link at the end. Because yes, we always want to know who is to blame. And here we are watching a dubious vampire movie while driving this car. So yes, it might be in the current state where we say driver assist vehicles, not autonomous vehicles. If the driver's watching a movie, they will say the driver is to fault. But who else could it be? Well, so the first picture is actually meant to demonstrate bad training, in that it is absolutely possible for computers to be able to separate the person from the background and to be able to identify different people, to identify people of color, to be able to identify which one of two identical twins is standing in front of it. It should absolutely be able to do that. It has the technology to do it if you give it enough training, if you give it enough information, and if you do enough correcting of the model and going through. So if you are not lazy, if you spend enough time on it, if you spend enough money on it, and if you give it enough data and you make sure that it is varied and not biased and you correct it, then you can absolutely make it good enough, better than me, I guess. In my scenario of driving to the airport, it would definitely be able to see that better than me with enough training. Could be the sensors that failed, maybe. It could be the manufacturing process that failed at some point. Could be the drivers are crazy. Could be a pedestrian threw himself in front of the car. Or it could be the programmer put something rogue in the code. I will show you some of that in a second. There might be other things, but those are the things that I was thinking of. I just wanted to show you this real quick. So this is from the SDK. So this is what I use to control the Percept device and to get it to read the telemetry. So yeah, maybe not control the Percept device, but to read the telemetry and to push that to the Raspberry Pis. It's a standard template in the SDK. It comes there, you just need to do a little bit of editing into it. And it tells you how to do it. All of those comments that it's got in purple tells you the command that you need to type into the Azure CLI. I do not like the Azure CLI because, well, because I don't understand where the information is coming from, where that fits, what it means. And so what I've done here is, in the Azure portal, I have shown you where that exact key comes from so that you can see where the names are that you would copy over, where the keys are that you would copy over. And the same there, that's the the other key. So yes, you can get it from the CLI as it tells you, but for transparency's sake, I'm showing you what it looks like in the portal, which I prefer. These things are a matter of choice. Here's the code that I had. That's the rest of that code, actually, which was, not really, there was really nothing much to change apart from that neural network part on the original code. It wasn't using that, it was using something else, and I just had to switch it to that to make it work. This code is on my GitHub, so you can, if you want to play with this yourself, you can go there and get it. I built this with my friend George, and we're often building stuff together and having fun with it. And you see at the bottom there, he put in some code to, if you see the Lego man, to kill the Lego man. Now, this is not an ethical or responsible AI piece of code, and therefore, I made him take it out, especially because the screen, when it was showing the telemetry, it was like, kill Lego men, kill Lego men, kill Lego men, which was really concerning. And so I had him take that out. However, it's only commented out. So I think if they came after us, if Leo took me to court and said, Michelle has tried to kill me, they would look at the code and they would say, well, the kill command is in there, and I would go down. So don't just comment out your bad code, get rid of it entirely, otherwise they will come for you. So I did want to just show this nice little bit, which is running as it should be, in that here's the robot from behind, and it is supposed to move away from the Lego cones. However, on this case, I have 5 Lego men on one side, and I have 1 Lego man on the other side behind the safety cones. And in fact, it works out for all 6 of the people. We didn't have to sacrifice the 1 to save the 5, or let the 5 die in order for the 1 to continue to live. The robot somehow did take down a cone, which is not in its programming, but it avoided all 6 Lego men, which is not in its programming. So I would say it's more luck and laziness of my model training than it is responsible AI, but it was a happy situation for all 6 Lego men. So there we go. So this was the breaking news out this week, and if you just search on Microsoft Responsible AI, you will find all the news articles talking about what we announced. What we essentially announced was a new AI standard and a toolbox that's going to help you, a dashboard that will help you track what you are doing. And there's a lot of really good stuff there on top of the responsible AI principles that we talked about today. A thought to end on is this quote. I don't know if you're following this Twitter account, Ethics in Bricks, but he very much sums up a lot of the philosophical and technical issues that the world is seeing right now in that Twitter account, so I do recommend it. And he's spot on with this quote that, those are absolutely the 2 types of algorithms that scare me. These are the resources, so you want to take a picture of that slide just now because it has really a lot of stuff that is useful and will help you. And you see it's very easy to get lost in this topic because there is so much information and it's so interesting. And there we are. So this is me. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. And I do have some prizes at the front if anyone would like to come up and claim them. Thank you, everyone.